Welcome, my political friends of the interwebs. I got a few messages from people. Well, three. Two people asked me what yellow journalism was, and one person said, how could I possibly make the connection of yellow journalism with what ABC's doing? Well, I think I can, and I'm about to. At least I'm going to try to. First, let me tell you, yellow journalism is a very, very, very old term. A very old term. It goes way. It predates television, and when it was first used, it was actually to describe techniques that were used in newspapers to sell. Ultimately, the goal was to sell more newspapers. And I'm going to get to that in a second. I think I can make the connection between. I'm going to have to update journalism from the press, from the from newspapers to today's world, which covers a myriad of outlets. But bear with me. Give me the benefit of the doubt for just a minute, and then you can let me know in the end if I make my case or not. Okay. First of all, for the two of you who did not know what yellow journalism is, I'm at the Wikipedia page for that. I encourage you to check it out. Go to Wikipedia. Just type in yellow journalism in Google, and you'll find it easy enough. It's an interesting read. It goes back to the days of Pulitzer versus Hearst. Yeah, we're talking that long ago, But I'm going to read you a little bit from the very beginning of the yellow journalism part on Wikipedia. It says, yellow journalism, or the yellow press, is a type of journalism that presents little or no legitimate, well-researched news, and instead uses eye-catching headlines to sell more newspapers. Techniques may include exaggerations of news events, scandal-mongering, or sensationalism. By extension, the term yellow journalism is used today as a projective to decry any journalism that treats news in an unprofessional or unethical fashion. Okay, I'm not going to go any further than that, but there's more that is worth reading. For me, though, and I completely appreciate what they're saying when they say that by extension, the term yellow journalism is used today as a projective to decry any journalism that treats news in an unprofessional or unethical fashion. Okay, I'm going to use Brian Williams as a perfect example, and even George Stephanopoulos. Okay. What they did recently, and that a lot of people are upset about and are calling for them to be fired, was unprofessional and unethical. Both. A combo. They did a combo thing going. What Brian Williams did, okay, was classic. I mean, it is literally classic. What he did was he tied the unfortunate shooting, the slaughter, the wholesale slaughter of people, he tied it to the Tea Party. Okay? Now, how did he do that? Well, the name of the shooter had, just by coincidence, had the same name as the guy that was in the Tea Party. Now, the littlest bit of research could have told him that there's no way, age-wise, there was a 30-year difference in age between the two of them, that there was no way that the shooter was the same person that was on the rolls of the Tea Party members. And here's another thing, just a little bit off topic. How the hell does media outlets have roll lists of who's in the Tea Party? Is that something that the Tea Party's made public, or is this something that they've gotten their hands on? How? I mean, are they making lists? Do they have a list of what people that don't agree with them? They have a list. And what is it? An enemies list? Is that what it is? I just find it kind of ironic that in a fairly short period of time, they can start spewing names off of a list of Tea Party members. I mean, kind of interesting. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section, because that kind of bothered me a little bit. Now, to go back to what he was doing, okay, because clearly, I believe that he knew. I believe that he absolutely knew that was not the same person. Okay, I really do believe that. But I think what he was doing is just a classic technique, and you'll find this in courtroom, a lot of courtroom drama, because you'll have either a prosecutor or a defense attorney place a witness onto the stand, and that either, well, depending on if it's if it's opposing counsel, but that that person will be instructed before they ever get to the stand to use certain words like murderer or rapist or embezzler or whatever to describe the person who's defending himself, to describe that person. Now what will happen is the opposing counsel will object, and the judge will chastise the witness not to use those words describing the defendant, and then he will instruct the jury to disregard what the witness said. Well, you can't undo it. You can't undo it, and it's classic, and it happens all the time. It's a form of psychological gamesmanship, is what it is, or psychops, or psychological warfare, however you want to put it. It's psychology 101. So, you know, in the midst of a horrific shooting, okay, you got to insert the words tea and party. Okay, you got to insert the Tea Party into that horrible event. Okay, now most of us who are on the right, okay, or even those of us that are libertarians slanting right, we knew what that was all about. But what you have to understand is that in the court of public opinion, the vast majority of the public aren't that bright. I mean, you know, I know there'll be a lot of heat for saying that, but it's true. You know, it is true. Most people aren't that freaking bright. I'm sorry to say it. You know, I know, you know, like I said, you go ahead and flame me in the comment section. I don't care, because that's really how I feel. So they throw the words Tea Party out there, and you got a certain amount of the population that's like, oh my God, the Tea Party, they're killing people now. You know, which is so absolutely ridiculous, you know, but that's yellow journalism. That is yellow journalism, you know, and what's worse about it in today's world, it's not necessarily about selling more advertising. Okay, back in the old days, it was about selling newspapers, because that was a big part of their income, was actually selling newspapers. So the actual selling of the newspaper, not necessarily as much with the advertising, although that was another a revenue stream. In today's world, the money's not in selling the newspaper, the money primarily is in advertising. And truthfully, the money's not there at all anymore, because newspapers are going out of business, and the same goes for ABC, NBC, CBS, and the whole lot of them. All the liberal news outlets. The only news outlet that's consistently able to place high in the ratings and are consistently able to pay their bills is, drum roll please, we all know who it is, Fox News. You know, but here's the thing: to these ideologues that are part of this left-wing journalism today, these yellow journalists, it's not really about sensationalism or unprofessionalism in order to sell, because clearly they're not worried about the money end of it. Okay, it's about furthering their left-wing agenda. There, I've said it. That's what it's about. That's why Brian Ross said what he said, and George Stephanopoulos went right along with it. It's about furthering their left-wing agenda. Now, in this particular case, it was about gun control. It was about gun laws. It was. That's why when you hear things like them using terms that you know, USMC, he alluded to it. You know, they use terms like 30 or 40 round clip. It doesn't matter to them that they're being factually inaccurate with what they're talking about. It's all about playing into people's minds. You know, 40 round clip, 100 round clip, being able to shoot fast without ever reloading. You know, slaughter. I mean, they use words like slaughter and assault weapon, and these are things that are extremely unprofessional and unethical, because they're none of them true or factually correct. But they don't care. They don't care because it furthers their agenda. It's as simple as that. And that is yellow journalism 101 in today's world. Now, if you were to confront them about this, oh, no, well, that was an error. That was not meant to, we were erred. We're sorry. And, you know, Brian Ross went on his Twitter feed. I believe it was his Twitter feed. It might have been his Facebook or his blog, one of those, and he apologized. Okay, whoop-de shit. Who watches that? Who reads his blog? Who, you know? I mean, you know, the damage was done on air, but you don't see him going on air and saying, hey, I screwed up. Now, with so many people calling for his resignation or calling for his head on a block, calling for him to be fired, I guess I wouldn't be real surprised if they dragged him out there and said, oops. But I guarantee you that apology wouldn't last more than 5 seconds, and then they'd be on to some other sensationalist story. You know, the thing that saddens me the most about this yellow journalism is that the media was entrusted from the earliest times in our country's development, from our forefathers. They were entrusted with a sacred duty, and that's why they have That's why the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, freedom of the press. That's the First Amendment. That's, you know, and our forefathers understood that. You have to be free. You know, and unfortunately, in today's world, you know, the press doesn't have any respect. Of course, they don't have any respect for any of the amendments. They don't have any respect for the Constitution. You know, they're in their minds. I could go on forever about this and why this happens or how this happens, but look at your journalism schools. Any of them, especially the more notable ones. Look at the professors. If you polled, okay, let's just say Yale or Harvard or any of the big the big Ivy League schools. And they've done this before, and it's true. If you polled all the campus professors, all the professors that were on staff, you would find that overwhelmingly, and I mean when I say overwhelmingly, I'm talking 98, 99% of those professors, if you polled them on what their political affiliation was, the vast majority of them would say they're registered Democrats. The overwhelming, staggeringly overwhelming majority would say they're registered Democrats. So now they're teaching tomorrow's journalists, okay? And now listen, when I say Democrats, I'm not talking about your grandfather's Democrat. I'm not even talking about your father's Democrat. I'm talking about a left-wing nut job socialist. I mean, we're talking Lenin, we're talking Engels, we're talking about hardcore communist types. And they're teaching tomorrow's journalists. They're teaching the journalists that will be forming the news. And when I say forming, see, journalists shouldn't be forming news. That's what they do today. But they shouldn't be forming news. They should be reporting news. But, you know. So when you have an overwhelming majority of leftists, hardcore leftists that are teaching the journalists of tomorrow, this is what you get. This is exactly what you get. That's exactly what's been going on in our journalism schools for 40 years now. Literally, for 40 years now. You know, ever since World War II. I mean, in World War II, the journalists were on board with our country. They were on board with our country. In today's world, if you could magically transform us back to 1941, the journalists would be of that day. Well, we're totally for us, but let's say you could take our journalists and transplant them to 1941. That's kind of where I'm going with this. They would be doing everything they could possibly do to undermine us. There would be every other newspaper calling for Roosevelt's resignation. There would be, it would be absolutely endless. It would be absolutely endless. I can only imagine editorial after editorial after editorial praising Adolf Hitler, praising Tojo. I can only imagine how that would be. Making it impossible. Oh, and oh my God. I mean, if they got wind that we had an atomic weapon in development, they'd have leaked that, you know. I don't know. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about this, but what's the point? Anyway, so that's yellow journalism. Hopefully you're on board with me. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'm right or wrong. And that's all I got for you. See ya.